Today I'm going to talk about the work of Mark Pirro, a man who made straight to VHS movies and straight to DVD movies, starting with a Polish vampire in Burbank. So after organ music, we see our main character sleeping in a coffin under a picture of a woman to simulate sleeping with a woman. I basically do the same thing. Then we see him brush his teeth with a toilet brush. I guess Brad Jones didn't create the term shit-eating grin. So he watches TV for a little bit where we see a Elvira impersonator and a cartoon that looks like Rocky and Bullwinkle. Oh great, we know that Mark Pirro has a moose fetish because he watched Rocky and Bullwinkle when he was a child. So this entire movie is about teaching him how to bite women like a vampire and not like a loyal person. And we get a appearance of A. Dizon. This was his 11th film role. I guess he just took whatever looked like fun. His high-pitched voice and his dirty performance is hilarious as always. So we see him go to a gym. Why does he need to go to a gym if he's biting people without consent? You don't have to be attractive or have charisma to do things without consent. If your opponent is willing to do stuff without consent, then you don't need to do this. Everything in this movie is morally wrong, but I think it's ironic. So he meets this gay person in a hot tub, and he basically talks about Mark Pirro's next film, A Queer Werewolf. Anyway, we get a romantic subplot of the film where he meets a woman that's frustrated that her boyfriend doesn't like vampire movies and that he doesn't understand how she can be turned on by seeing a bite. But lucky for her, our main character does like vampire movies and is interested in biting her. Next, we get a really good scene that feels like a real party, and there's actually original songs in this scene. And we get an romantic subplot, but I guess this is supposed to show a normal, awkward relationship. And you could call it useless, but I couldn't imagine a movie without it. All the fake skulls in this movie are hilarious to look at. So that's a Polish vampire in Burbank. This movie is very good at putting the concept of being a vampire in a real situation to show why it's immoral and illogical to be a vampire in the real world. All the cheapness of this movie made every scene funnier. And this movie only cost $2,500 to make, and it earned about $1 million in VHS sales. So it's time to hit review his next movie, A Queer Werewolf. Came out in 1988, 5 years after A Polish Vampire in Burbank. So we get a scene in a dance club, and our main character's like, how could you force me to go to a dance club when I have a wife? How dare you put me in these situations where people throw themselves at me and make me cheat? So we see at his house, he has the most beautiful girlfriend ever who just forces herself on him all the time, so he has no reason to cheat even though he might be an nymphomaniac. And this guy also does weird things at work, like shocking his coworkers for pleasure. Yeah, this guy's a bad influence for our main character. So we see him cheat, and the joke is the girls are giving more alcohol than the men, so they're easier to, you know, bang. This movie was made at a different time, and this is definitely not right. You're supposed to like energy and have no control. Well, the men are supposed to have no control. At least that's the way I like it. I'm just doing nothing and somebody's just throwing themselves at me that I like. Oh my god. Why are they focusing on the penguin? I do not need to know that this man uses ceramic to wipe his ass. This man uses way too many tools. So he comes across a fortune teller that tells him if you cheat too much, you will turn to a queer werewolf. So we see him slowly turn to a queer werewolf. So during a date with his wife, he turns to a queer werewolf. So in even your best moments, you still get stuff from your past haunting you. So that's Curse of a Queer Werewolf. This movie still had good characters and cheap charm and very funny moments. So far, Mark Pirro is still using his low budget to his advantage. The Cinema Snob always reviewed Death Row Game Show and Nudist Colony of the Dead, so I don't need to talk about those films. And I'm not talking about Beats Bunnies because I don't want to review a movie that's all tits. So let's go right to Carblind, where his films stopped being just dumb fun. This black woman wonders what if she was a blonde or a boyfriend liked her more. That's this entire movie. So a policeman stops them for no reason, and they didn't commit any crimes. I guess this is opposed to talk about discrimination, but this is the only scene that we get with some commentary, and it's just boring. This movie does the bare minimum of commentary. It just expects you to care that it's doing commentary without actually doing enough funny scenes for. Wait, I did realize this movie was so boring that I actually have nothing to say about it. It was just this it was just a cheap movie with bad acting that had a bare minimum of satire that was way boring to watch. I also have nothing to say about Wekdom because it was just an immature movie where our ass is like Godzilla and becomes big. I actually did watch Mark Pirro's The God Complex, but it was just mostly immature and not as good as movies like A Holy Mountain. But it is interesting how they portray God as just a normal guy who even has to go to court for something. But this is probably Mark Pirro's best film because it tried the best at satire and actually made fun of the subject. It was just way too long.